you wanted to talk about living unconditionally. And I was like, what the fuck does that even mean?
Right.
So what is your perspective on that? What does that mean?
I'm right there with you on it, or I was never really understood what that meant. It was just words to me, and it had no visceral impact on me. It was an idea that made no sense. But I have come to understand it to mean that you maintain your consistency in the face of whatever's going on around you. I've always been fascinated by almost every other century of humanity on Earth has been so much more chaotic than what we have to deal with now.
That is a good point that people do not say enough.
And yet, and within all that chaos, you're getting eaten by predators and,
right.
Or, your neighbor is fucking stabbing you and it's A-okay. That's most of human history.
No, it's true. Very true.
It is most of human history. But yet in those times, people still made art. They still loved each other. They still made great literature. And I mean, the list goes on and on of human accomplishments.
Why do you
archaeology. And it's because some people are able to live unconditionally. And that means, instead of, always being concerned about a threat or a perceived threat or a real threat, and allowing that to inform everything you do, you don't do that. And you actually do the thing that you as a human being individually is good at and came here to do.
We kind of have talked about this on our, other podcasts that I've done with Hunter and Chris and everything, that we've kind of gotten into it, but the way that you're framing that is a different perspective. But why do you think it is that, like, our modern day society, it is so fucking hard for people to live unconditionally? Whatever, what you mean by that. To me, it kind of sounds, a way that I can think about what you mean by that is like being consistent. Like, you have to be a consistent person where even if you're, whatever is happening in your personal life, like a good example is your job. Whatever your job is, something that your boss will tell you, and a lot of like younger people don't like it when their boss says like, you need to be more professional or whatever, but that's what that means, right? It means...
I don't like that either.
But you know what I mean? Like, we all have our personal shit that we're dealing with, and you go to your work and you're supposed to like leave that at the door and do your job, be professional, be consistent. That's kind of the same as unconditionally, but you're like zooming out and saying in your whole life, that's something that you should try to practice to do. And that's like something that some people just don't even think about. They don't even think about like that concept, but why do you think it is that in our modern day society, technology, social media, do you think that has a role to play in why it's so fucking hard for people to?
Oh, yeah.
You think, I
think even people who are caught up in it and have the least self-awareness have got some inkling that maybe this is not, perfectly suited to producing happiness.
Yeah.
But, I just feel that to live unconditionally means to be able to be yourself 100% in your integrity with people coming at you. And why people are having a harder time like that to do that nowadays probably has to do with there are no actual threats. There actually are very few
real threats. I know what you mean.
So you have to go around perceiving things that are not threats and making them into threats.
Yeah. Well, let me ask, or let me, I'm just thinking like of something Hunter might ask you right now. He would say, well, what does it mean being yourself? What does that even mean? How can you be yourself? Like, how can you be authentic? What does that even mean to be authentic, right? Because aren't we changing like day to day, moment to moment?
Oh yeah, well, authenticity happens in the moment. It's absolutely something that is happening right now. So, it's not 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
And it's not 5 minutes from now. It's happening right this instant.
How do you like in this moment, or I don't know a better way to frame this, but how do you kind of like know that you're being authentic? Or how would you give someone a tip? Like, well, how do you be authentic? You know, how do you know when you're being real, or you're being honest, or you're being authentic with someone?
I don't know how you wouldn't know, I guess.
It's a very philosophical question.
For me, it just has always come very naturally.
Is it like
naturally.
An honesty thing? Like you can feel that you're being honest with yourself in that moment?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of some moment where I was inauthentic and where I said,
that's a good way to put it, actually. Yeah.
When I said yes, when I meant no.
Yeah.
Okay, why did I just do that?
Yeah.
What am I afraid of?
Yeah.
What is the repercussion really?
Yeah.
If I say no when I mean, or say yes when I mean no.
Yeah. Well, that's a good way to put it, rather than saying like, how do you be authentic? Because how the fuck do you answer that question? Maybe think of a time that you've been inauthentic, and like you said, what does it come back to a lot of the time? Like you're fearful. You're fearful of really saying how you feel. You know?
And I think you hit the nail on the head there, because you cannot be afraid. Once you really start testing limits, and I've done that a lot, I have pushed myself to great limits, and I survived. And like actually nothing that bad that I couldn't deal with the aftermath after a while. It didn't kill me. So I'm going to be fucking afraid to say no to you? No, I'm not anymore. I'm not. Like,
that's what I love about you. Well, so this is something that, I'm young, I'm 26. Like I feel this shit every day. Like there's stuff that I'm glad that I've become aware of, like, yeah, be authentic. It's important. Like try to be honest with yourself, but I struggle with it every day. And I think what you're saying right now is something that people struggle with. Maybe younger people is it's very easy to get so caught up in thinking that like this is everything. Like whatever, like my girlfriend broke up with me. It's the end of the fucking world. They're like, this is it. I'm never going to find someone again. I'm never going to love someone the way I loved her. Like this is the fucking end. So like what you just said is like tying into, that's actually not true. Like if you're alive and breathing, you've gotten through whatever the issue is. But how do you stay aware of that? Like, how do you keep yourself? I know you meditate, which is probably a big part of helping you.
It's enormous. Yeah. It really does enhance your ability to detach.
Yeah, which is, that's something we talk about all the time.
That is not a negative thing. A lot of people would say that detachment means you don't have compassion or empathy, but that is not what it means. It means standing back and observing a situation as it is and incorporating other people's feelings and not just your own. Because that is the way we communicate effectively. And that is how you can be more authentic and communicate that more effectively. Yeah.